In this presentation, we're going to go over the male reproductive system. Our objectives are to describe the structure of the human male reproductive tract, describe the process of sperm production, and outline the process of hormonal control of the male reproductive system. Start with the anatomy of the male. This is a diagram from your book. There's a lot of detail. So on this side of the slide, I've outlined some of the anatomical structures that I want you to pay attention to. Starting with the scrotum, which is the bag that the testis, the gonad, is located in. If we look at more detail at the testis, right down here in the lower right corner, we see the seminiferous tubules. This is the site of sperm production. In between those, Leydig cells. The seminiferous tubules empty into a tube called the epididymis, which then empties into a tube called the vas deferens. The vas deferens leads from the testis and is going to go along through the bulbourethral gland, prostate gland, and the seminal vesicles, and then empty out the urethra and then out the penis. So, did you know every day a healthy adult male makes about 400 million sperm? It seems that nature has made sure that the human species will not be endangered for lack of sperm. Quotation from an anatomy and physiology textbook. So the testes are located in the scrotum, and there's a reason they're somewhat outside of the body. Sperm development is very temperature sensitive. It happens optimally at about 2 degrees lower than body temperature. And the testes contain over 100 yards. If you were to stretch it out of seminiferous tubules, that would be a little less than 100 meters. And that is a region of cell division, meiosis, that leads to sperm production. And the seminiferous tubules join to form the epididymis, which is the region where sperm finish maturation and learn to swim. So they finish developing in the epididymis. This diagram kind of outlines that. If we're looking at one of the seminiferous tubules, look at it from a cross section, see our spermatogonium, our stem cell here, undergoes meiosis, meiosis 1, and then meiosis 2 to form our 4 haploid cells. By the time we're at this stage, where these cells have moved from the outer edge of the seminiferous tubule wall to the inner edge, and our sperm are now within the lumen, the opening of the seminiferous tubule, move along to the epididymis where they will finish developing and start swimming. A little more detail on the sperm. Sperm are very specialized cells, consist of a nucleus and then a little bag of enzymes in the structure called the acrosome that helps the sperm get into the egg, a flagellum, the tail, and then our mitochondria wrapped around that flagellum to provide ATP for that swimming. The product that is eventually ejected from the urethra is going to be called semen, and semen consists of sperm, about 50 to 150 million sperm per millimeter of semen. Seminal fluids from the seminal vesicles, which include a sugar source, prostaglandins, which are hormones or hormone-like compounds that cause muscle contractions, vitamin C, and their function is to nourish and activate the sperm. Alkaline fluid from the prostate, which helps to activate the sperm. And then the bulbourethral glands are producing mucus. And the mucus is going to provide lubrication and help rinse out the acidic urine in the urethra, because sperm are also very pH sensitive and they don't like acidic conditions. So, did you know The entire process from primary spermatocyte to immature sperm takes about 64 to 72 days, but it's happening all the time from puberty on. For control of the male reproductive cycle, there are several hormones that are involved. One of the important ones is testosterone. So testosterone is produced by the Leydig cells in the testes. And the job of testosterone is growth and function of male reproductive tissues. It helps control male sexual and, somewhat aggressive behavior, secondary sex characteristic development, and it also stimulates cell division in the spermatogonia, so that's increasing the rate of sperm production, and stimulates a type of cell called Sertoli cells, and these cells are supporting the developing sperm. But testosterone is not working alone. There's a big negative feedback loop that controls the production of testosterone that involves luteinizing hormone, LH, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH. I'm going to outline it here and then show you an illustration so you'll get both the words and the pictures. So let's start at the beginning of the cycle. The hypothalamus produces gonadotropin releasing hormone. And this increased production of gonadotropin releasing hormone is triggered by low levels of testosterone. So you can see there's a negative feedback loop happening. And gonadotropin releasing hormone acts on the anterior pituitary to release LH and FSH. So LH, released by the anterior pituitary, then works on the Leydig cells that are in the testes and increases production of testosterone. And FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, stimulates the Sertoli cells. Those are their support cells, and so it will also stimulate sperm production. And as the Leydig cells are producing more testosterone, that means that testosterone levels in the blood increase, which work on the hypothalamus to decrease gonadotropin releasing hormone, which will in turn decrease the release of LH and FSH. You can see it's a negative feedback loop again. So let's look at a diagram of that. Here's the hypothalamus producing gonadotropin releasing hormone, which acts on the anterior pituitary to release FSH and LH. LH acts on the Leydig cells, and remember those were in between the seminiferous tubules, and they will produce more testosterone. Testosterone then will work on secondary sex characteristics as well as stimulate the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells are the support cells for the developing sperm, so increasing their activity increases the rate of spermatogenesis. As testosterone levels increase, that will work back on the hypothalamus to decrease gonadotropin releasing hormone, which will decrease LH and FSH, which will decrease testosterone production. You can see we're doing that sort of negative feedback there. So our big ideas here: sperm are produced in the seminiferous tubules and move into the epididymis and then into the vas deferens. The urethra transports semen, which contains sperm and products of the seminal vesicles and prostate and bulbal urethral glands. And the male reproductive cycle is controlled by the interactions of several hormones, including gonadotropin releasing hormone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and testosterone. I'll see you in our next presentation where we discuss the female reproductive cycle.